Hey, I'm Daniel and welcome to a complete tutorial on how to play 20 Strong Tanglewoods Red, a new compact solo board game from Cheap Theory Games. Now, normally to play this game, you would need to read two rulebooks, one for the general rules of play that apply across all 20 Strong decks, and another that covers the rules specific to Tanglewoods Red. However, in this video I've combined the two so you have everything you need to know to play this game in a single video. And for full transparency, this video is not sponsored and I purchased the copy of the game myself. If I make any rule mistakes, I'll make sure to post the rule corrections in the pinned comments, so make sure to keep an eye on it. And well, now let's get started. To set up the game, first choose a hero you want to play. Tanglewoods Red comes with 5 different heroes, and you can choose universal heroes, which are indicated by this little star symbol if you happen to have them. Some hero cards are double-sided and you can freely choose either side unless the card instructs otherwise. Each hero card has its name, a special unique ability and stats. For your first play, I suggest not overthinking and just pick any hero you think looks cool. Then find the 3 stat dice and place them near your hero with the values depicted on the hero card. For this example, I've picked Little Red, so my stat and stats are the following: 2 health, 3 strategy and 2 recovery. I'm going to talk more about each of these stats later in this video, but for quick reference, here's what they do. Health refers to how much damage your hero can take. If the health stats ever reach 0, you lose the game. Strategy indicates 3 things: how many items your hero can carry, how many cards you see in the scouting line, and how many times you can go through the strategy phase, and recovery is how many exhausted dice you can recover each round. As I mentioned, I'm going to explain all of those things soon, but for now, remember just a couple of simple rules. Stat dice are never rolled, they cannot be reduced below 0 except health, and they cannot be increased above 6. Next, grab the 20 strong chip, put it on a magnet with the numbers face up and place it nearby. This is your gold tracker. Then set it to 20 minus the sum of your starting stats. In this example, because my starting stats are 2, 3 and 2, the total of 7, so my starting gold is 13. Next, grab all forest cards, locate a card with a house icon at the bottom and place it in your play area. This is your starting point for your journey through the forest. Those cards are double-sided with the day and night time, so be sure to place them with the green daytime side up. If you're having troubles identifying colors, you can tell the sign by the small sun and moon icons in the top left corner. Then find the Grandma's Cabin card and set it aside for now. Shuffle the remaining forest cards and put 5 random ones back in the box. You won't need them this game. This means each game will have a slightly different set of forest cards, making every run unique. Then place the cabin card on top of the 10 remaining forest cards and place them nearby your play area. Next, find Big Bad Wolf, who is the main boss in this game, and his wolf pack. 5 cards named Growl, Howl, Prowl, Guzzle and Rowdy. Shuffle these 5 cards, place the Big Bad Wolf card on top and put this deck near your play area as well. Next, find and shuffle all items. These are orange cards with the red border. Put the merchant card on top and place this deck nearby the play area too. Next, find all minion cards. They have enemies on one side and fables on the other. Give them a good shuffle, make sure they're facing enemy side up and place them nearby. So you always end up seeing at least one next enemy that you're going to encounter, which in this case is Wither. But to help you foresee the danger you will face in the forest, you use your hero's strategy stat to increase the number of minions you can see. In this example, because my strategy stat is 3, I can see up to 3 upcoming enemies. So I'm going to slide the top card to the left and then I'm going to do the same for the next card, so I end up seeing 3 enemies matching the number on my strategy die. This line of enemies is what referred to as the scouting line. Next, grab all the colored dice. In 20 strong, they are called units. Separate 1 die of each color unless your hero says otherwise, so that would be 1 red, 1 purple, 1 blue, 1 green and 1 yellow, and place them nearby the play area. These are now banished dice. Keep the remaining 12 dice next to your hero, as this is your dice pool that will help you to overcome challenges. Finally, place your health die on the house icon on the starting forest card. This is how you'll track your movement through the forest. And we're pretty much ready to begin. Now, Tanglewoods Red comes with difficulty scaling, allowing you to make the game easier or harder. You can find all difficulty levels in the rulebook on page 47, and you must apply any effects now, if any at all, as you cannot change the difficulty during the game. If this is your first time playing, try difficulty 0 first. Or if you already played other 20 strong games, feel free to start at difficulty 5. Also keep your reference card nearby. It's handy for checking icons and node effects during the play. With the setup ready, now let's move on to the game flow. The game plays in rounds and each round consists of 2 major parts: activation, and engagement. However, depending on what happens during activation, sometimes the entire engagement part will be skipped. First, during the activation part, you can choose to explore. To explore, select 1 to 3 yellow and/or blue dice in any combination and roll them one at a time. Let's pretend that I rolled 2 yellow and 1 blue die, and this is what I've got. On a miss, draw a card from the bottom of the forest deck and add it to your path on its nighttime or purple side. Nighttime sides are generally more challenging, often containing tougher enemies or traps. On a hit, draw a card from the bottom of the forest deck and place it with its daytime or green side face up. On a critical hit, or crit for short, in addition to placing a new daytime forest card, also gain 1 gold. Importantly, all dice you roll to explore are now exhausted, so keep them separate from your ready dice. Now, this exploration phase is totally optional and you can skip it if you want to. However, if you reach the end of your current forest card and you're about to reveal a new part of the forest, that new forest card will always be placed on the nighttime side. So exploring might be a good idea if you want to plan ahead and potentially avoid some extra challenges. If you do explore, however, you also get to visit a merchant. To visit a merchant, grab the items deck with the merchant card on top and draw a number of cards from the bottom of this deck equal to the number of dice you rolled to explore. In this case, because I rolled 3 dice, my shop will be populated with 3 item cards. So let's have a look at what actions are available at the merchant. First, for 2 gold, you can mend, which means to recover the weakest exhausted die. Now, quick note, all unit dice have different chances of landing hits depending on the color, in the following order: yellow, green, blue, purple, and red. Units with fewer hit sides are considered weaker, while dice with more hit sides are stronger. So because I currently have yellow and blue dice exhausted, for 2 gold I can recover 1 yellow die since it's the weakest among the 2. Next, at the merchant, for 3 gold you can recover the weakest banish die, which are these dice that we've set aside during the setup. For 4 gold you can upgrade your item by flipping to its other side, and you can also purchase an item from the shop for the value that is printed in the bottom right corner. So now let's have a look at the item cards. Item cards are double-sided, with the basic orange side shows the cost in the bottom right corner, while the upgraded or red side doesn't have a cost printed. When populating the shop, make sure to always place item with their non-upgraded side up. Each card has a name and a special effect, and these special effects come in 2 types: one-time use, indicated by a down arrow symbol, or ongoing effects, shown by the infinity icon. And unless a card specifies its timing, you may use or discard items at any time. When an item is discarded for any reason, or once you're done taking merchant actions, any shop items you didn't purchase are placed in the item discard pile. If you ever need to draw an item but your item deck is empty, reshuffle the discard to form a new item deck. Also keep in mind that taking any merchant actions is optional and you can repeat actions as many times as you can afford. For example, you can recover multiple dice or buy several items and upgrade them right away, as long as you have enough gold. And also remember that you can visit the merchant only if you explored, which again is optional. Next, regardless of whether you explored or not, you've got to travel, so let's talk about how it works. To travel, simply move your health die along one of the lines to the next node. You can only ever move forward and never backward, but what happens next depends on the type of node you have arrived at. There are 4 main node types: enemy, wolf, fable, and campfire. There is also a final boss encounter at the Grandma's cabin that triggers the endgame, but we'll talk about this a bit later. Now let's see what happens when you land on each of these node types. When you land on the campfire node, it's an upgrade time. You can choose to gain either +2 health, +1 strategy, or +1 recovery. Don't forget to adjust the upgraded stat die accordingly, and if you choose to upgrade strategy, don't forget to reveal 1 more enemy in your scouting line. When you land on a fable node, it's event time. Draw the bottom card from the minion deck, flip it to the fable side, and follow the instructions on the card. Some fables provide a positive effect, some negative, and sometimes it's a mix of 2. Most fable cards are resolved instantly and discarded to the minion deck discard pile with the enemy side face up. However, some fables card can stay as persistent effects depending on the specific fable. Importantly, after visiting both campfires and fables, the engagement part is skipped entirely. You'll just start a new round, beginning again with the optional exploration phase and then continue to travel. And this is crucial because because even though fables and especially campfires are generally beneficial, you don't get to recover your exhausted dice by visiting those nodes, because recovery is a part of the engagement step, which is skipped in this case. Next, when you land on the enemy node, you trigger a conflict encounter. To start the encounter, add the leftmost enemy from your scouting line to the active area. By default, it's only one enemy, but sometimes you might be facing multiple enemies at once. So let's take a quick look at the enemy cards. Each card has a name, health, damage, bribe cost, special effect and reward. At this stage you need to decide how you want to tackle this encounter. Do you want to engage the enemy or bribe it? We're going to cover both bribery and engagement in a moment, but for now let's continue with the travel phase by seeing what happens when you land on the wolf node. Wolf pack is essentially an elite encounter when you deal with the henchmen of Big Bad Wolf, and for the purpose of game effects they are considered boss enemies. To start the wolf pack encounter, draw a bottom card from the wolf deck and place it in your active area. The wolf cards have pretty much the same information as on the normal minion cards, with the only difference being that they don't have a bribe stat, so naturally you can't bribe them. The wolves also have pretty powerful special effects, so let's have a look at the 3 different types of special effects you might find on both wolf and normal minion cards. During effects, shown by the droplet icon, are active from the moment the enemy enters the active area and until it is defeated. After effects, shown by the double arrow icon, trigger during the resolve phase. Think of them as enemy's counterattack. Importantly, they still apply even if the enemy is defeated. And special effects marked with a star are unique abilities that trigger at specific times described on the card. And just like after effects, they still apply even if the enemy is defeated. Now, since there are only 5 wolf pack cards and you don't reshuffle them unlike other minion cards, it is possible to defeat all wolves and still have wolf nodes to visit. If you travel to a wolf node and there are no more wolves left to defeat, simply skip that node and move on to the next one. And to finish off with the travel phase, let's also take a look at the different borders around the node icons. These are special modifiers that can make each node slightly different from each other, and you resolve the corresponding modifier effect first before activating the node. Square outline is weary, and it makes you have one strategy stat fewer. Now, you don't need to adjust the stat die, and you also no need to adjust your scouting line. You already know what enemy is, so there is no point in hiding them now. However, remember that the strategy stat also affects how many items you can carry and how many times you can repeat the strategy phase during the engagement. So let's say if your strategy is 3 and you already carry 3 items, you must immediately discard 1 item when landing on a weary node, since your effective strategy will be reduced down to 2. And of course, this reduction doesn't carry over to the next nodes, so your strategy gets back to normal once you move off that node. The next outline modifier is a hexagon called Blighted. Enemies have +2 health, +1 damage and cannot be bribed. Next is Octagon called Mob. You add +1 minion to the active area for each plus icon surrounding this node. For example, if you land on the enemy node with the Mob modifier and 3 plus icons, you move 4 enemies to your active area, 1 for the node itself plus 3 extra for the modifier. Next outline is a 6-pointed star or toll. Forces you to banish any die or pay 2 gold. And just as a reminder, banished dice are placed aside and can only be recovered at the merchant for 3 gold, and not during your normal recovery phase. Next modifier outlined by the circular arrows is Trap. Roll a blue die and on a hit recover up to 2 exhausted dice. On a miss, flip your current forest card to its nighttime side. Now keep in mind, because these modifiers are resolved first, you may land on the node of one type but end up on a different type of node. Let's say you moved to this campfire wanting to have a good rest before the final boss, and your blue die landed on a miss. You must then flip this card, but now instead of the campfire you have to deal with a wolf pack with 2 extra minions. And finally we have a simple circle, which is a node with no additional effect. With the travel phase now covered, let's finish the activation step by quickly looking at the bribe phase. If you have any minions in the active area, you have the opportunity to bribe them with gold instead of dealing with them by force. To bribe an enemy, pay that amount of gold from your tracker and then discard the enemy card to the discard pile. Keep in mind that bribed enemies don't give any rewards and they are not considered defeated for any rule purposes. And if after bribing you have no enemies left in the active area, you effectively skip the engagement step, which also means no recovery, just like when you visit fables or campfires. Now, if you don't have enough gold to bribe, or you landed on a blighted node, or you're facing the wolf pack, or you simply want to get a reward, you've got to engage enemies. So let's talk about that. First, select any number of dice from your available pool. You may select any number and any combination of dice, even all of them if you want to. This process is called commit and it's basically showing your intentions. Next, roll all of these dice you've selected. Unlike in the exploration phase where you must roll one die at a time, here you must roll them together. Then apply these dice to the active enemies. Each hit on a die deals 1 damage and each crit deals 2 damage, though it's still considered a single 2-hit result and cannot be split. These hits are applied one at a time in any order and you're not required to apply all of them. And just to clarify, only hits, which means sides that deal damage, can be applied. Misses cannot. If the amount of damage you dealt with these hits is equal to the enemy's health, the enemy is defeated. To indicate it, rotate it sideways, which is particularly helpful when facing multiple enemies at once. When the enemy is defeated, any during effects on its card are no longer active. And also don't forget to collect the reward, usually gold, which you gain immediately as soon as the enemy is defeated. However, keep in mind that you cannot defeat an enemy, gain its gold reward, and then use that gold to bribe another enemy in the same encounter, because the bribe phase happens before engagement. Now, this whole process of committing, rolling and applying dice is called strategy phase, and it's important to keep in mind that you can repeat the strategy phase as many times as your strategy stat. To give an example, let's say our hero strategy stat is 2 and we selected and rolled these 3 green dice, landing on a hit, a crit and a miss. With this result, I can apply the hit and crit for a collective total of 3 damage, and now if we want to, we can repeat this process one more time because the strategy stat is 2. For this additional attempt, we may select more dice and even include any unapplied dice, like this miss for example. Let's say we don't want to add any extra dice and we simply want to roll that miss die again, and if it lands on a hit this time, we can apply it as well. Once you're done with the strategy phase, the engagement moves to the resolve phase, which consists of 5 quick steps. Suffer damage from all enemies that remain undefeated at this point by adding together their damage stat and reducing your health stat by that amount. Then resolve all after effects from enemies in the active area, including defeated enemies. Then exhaust all committed dice, whether applied or not, even misses, by moving them separately from your ready dice pool. Then recover any exhausted dice up to the number of your recovery stat by moving them back to your ready dice pool. And finally, clean up the active area by placing all enemy cards, defeated and undefeated, into the enemy discard pile. So essentially, a conflict encounter always resolves within a single round, regardless of whether you were able to defeat the enemies or not. Obviously, defeating enemies is generally beneficial as you get gold and avoid suffering damage, but if you weren't able to defeat the enemies, you can still continue, of course provided you aren't too beaten up and still have at least 1 health. Remember that enemies are just obstacles on your way to the final destination, the Big Bad Wolf. Once you arrive at the Grandma's cabin, you trigger the Endgame, a special type of encounter where you face the final boss. To set up the Endgame battle, first place the Big Bad Wolf in the active area, or the bigger and better wolf on the flip side if you want an extra challenge. Then take all undefeated wolf pack cards and place them in the active area with their power up side face up. These act as extra modifiers that make the encounter harder, and this is why it's generally a good idea to visit some wolf pack nodes along the way during your journey. And finally, add extra minions according to the normal rules we already covered. 2 additional mobs if you landed on a cabin's daytime side, or 4 if it's nighttime. You are now ready to face the boss. The general round structure is the same as in normal encounters we already covered, with one key difference. The conflict continues until all active enemies are defeated. This time you fight for real until one of you KOs. We've covered pretty much all the rules you need to get started, but just to tie everything together, let me quickly recap the general flow of the game. The round begins with the exploration phase, which is completely optional. In this case, let's say we want to explore and we choose to roll 1 blue die. The die lands on a hit, which means we can add 1 daytime card to our path drawn from the bottom of the forest deck. This die becomes exhausted, so I'm placing it separately from the rest of my dice. Now, since we explored, we get to visit the merchant, and because we rolled a single die, the shop has only 1 item available for purchase. I think I'm going to spend 3 gold to recover the weakest banish die, and I'm going to do this twice, which means I recover a yellow die first, and then the next weakest die, which is green. I decide not to purchase the item from the shop, so the card goes to the item discard pile. Now I get to travel, and I need to choose which of these 3 nodes I want to go to. For this example, let's go to the node in the middle, but because it has a toll modifier, I must either banish a die or pay 2 gold. I decide to pay 2 gold. Because it's an enemy encounter and it doesn't have any extra mobs, I move a single leftmost enemy from my scouting line to the active area and immediately reveal another enemy in the scouting line to reflect my strategy stat. Before the engagement begins, I check if this enemy has any special effects that would trigger at this stage, and in this case there is one, but luckily I don't have any exhausted yellow dice, so this effect doesn't really apply. Next, I decide whether I want to bribe this enemy or not. Since I have an exhausted die that I would like to recover and I wouldn't mind getting some gold back, I decide to engage this enemy. First, I decide which dice I want to roll. This enemy has only 1 health and my strategy stat is 3, which means I can potentially reroll misses up to 3 times. So I decide to roll a single green die. First try, it lands on a miss. On my second strategy phase, I roll all unapplied dice, which in this case is still the same single die, and this time it's lands on a hit, which I can now apply to the enemy. Since the enemy is defeated, I immediately gain the reward, in this case 1 gold. Because the enemy is defeated, I don't suffer any damage, but if it had remained undefeated, I would have taken 1 damage instead. There are no after effects, so nothing else happens at this stage. I exhaust the die I committed, which again in this case is just a single green die. Now I got to recover up to 2 dice because my recovery stat is 2, so I move both of these exhausted dice back to my dice pool, and finally I move the enemy card to the enemy discard pile. And that finishes the round. On the next round, I'd start again with exploration and travel and so on. I hope this little demo gives you a better sense of how the game flows from turn to turn. And that concludes my how to play video for 20 strong Tanglewoods Red. This was actually my first ever how to play video on the channel, so I'd really love to hear your thoughts. And also just to let you know, I'm planning to film more 20 strong videos soon, and if you would like to support the channel directly and get access to tons of behind the scenes, you can join on Patreon, and it really helps me keep creating. And well, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.